Join Gator great Shane Matthews every weekday as he brings you all you need to know about your Florida Gators, including news, analysis, and opinions with some of the biggest names in sports. Find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. Or watch us live at 8 a.m. on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter.
Welcome to PodUp with Matthews in the Morning, coming to you from the International Diamond Center Studios, family owned and operated with the largest selection of natural diamond jewelry, the only diamond and jewelry partner of the Florida Gators. Shane Matthews can't be here this morning. He's a busy guy, as you all know. I am Graham Hall of 247 Sports. Shane's got a good reason to not be here. He is going to be at Spurrier's tonight for the Coach of the Year, First Year Coach of the Year awards at Spurrier's. It's going to be the epicenter of college football tonight. There's the awards banquet. A lot of big name coaches are going to be there tonight. Kirby Smart, Mario Cristobal, obviously the man Steve Spurrier himself. So always a fantastic event that's put on there. I've been a couple of times, and it is just an awesome event. So he is looking forward to that, and I'm filling in today on the show. Excited to be here and talk all things Florida. It was a very busy and fun weekend in Gainesville. I'll start with this. Florida Gymnastics goes up to Georgia, gets a win over the Dogs. That's always a good thing. And then baseball, just right on rolling here in Gainesville. They lose the first game of the season last weekend. Liam Peterson didn't have a great outing, obviously. Aiden King was great. Cooper Walls was great. They end up getting the series over UAV. And then this past week, 4 straight wins since that series in Gainesville here, and Liam Peterson was just fantastic Friday night. We're going to talk a little more baseball here in the second half of the show with Nick Marcinko of Gator Country, who does a terrific job covering all things Florida, from basketball, baseball, obviously. And then spring camp, man, is just right around the corner. It is February 23rd, and the Gators open spring camp under John Summerall on March 3rd here in Gainesville. So an exciting time. Football is going to be here before we know it. It is a busy time in Gainesville, a lot to talk about. Before we get into all that, we got my main man, JC, here on the show today. I know he's been following the state of college football, basketball. Man, let's get started. JC, how much of this college basketball season have you been following, and what do you think of just the way Florida's playing right now? I tell people not to get their expectations too high, and we pumped the brakes on the defending national championship talk. But this team, I mean, they're ranked higher in Torvik and KenPom. I know not everyone out there follows, advanced analytics, and you look at the AP poll and the coaches poll, and you still see Florida sitting outside the top 10. But they're top 5 in Torvik, KenPom. The net rankings have them within the top 10 as well. This is a team that is rolling a little bit better than they were last year at this time, which really kind of makes you excited about the prospects of this team.
Well, without a doubt, Graham, great to have you here this morning, filling in for Shane, who's probably freezing out on some golf course right now. It's got to be brutal, but hey, it's going to warm up. Listen, you're right about the basketball team. It's funny that they came in ranked 12th last week in the AP poll, and I thought to myself, really, do they truly believe there are 11 teams better than Florida? And I'm not really sure if that's really how rankings work or if it's just positioning. I think Florida's basketball team is a team that is going to be literally impossible to deal with if they hit threes and any type of percentage above 30 or more. If they are 30% or better from the three-point line, and Clapjar gets more and more time, Clapjar, if he hits those shots, it's just going to make it almost impossible to defend this team. They go up to Mississippi and they score in the 90s. They have been consistently above 80 or more. The only game I think they literally took off was the game they didn't cover a double-digit spread a week ago against South Carolina, and who can blame them? That's the worst team in the conference, and you sometimes show up thinking to yourself, well, that's really all we need to do to win the game is show up. And literally that's all that happened against South Carolina. But against Mississippi, against Georgia, against Texas A&M just recently, these guys have literally gone in there and blown these teams out, sent the crowd home early, and are showing America that with that front court, if we get any kind of outside shooting from the guards or scoring production from the guards, forget it. They're not going to lose. It's going to be impossible to beat them if they shoot the ball.
Yeah, this is the team that was probably the biggest knock on them to start the year was that, they bring in Xavier Lee and Boogie Flan and you return Urban, and Thomas Houck has just been fantastic from three. I mean, he's gone 22 straight games with making a three-pointer. I mean, talk about consistency. If he hits one more on Wednesday at Texas, he's going to be in a top 10 season for Florida program history in consecutive made threes. And for a guy who's 6'9", is playing the four, moves to the three, to be able to do that has been huge for Florida. But yeah, I agree with you. When they hit threes, this team is, Todd Golden called it the icing on the cake, the cherry on the top, whatever cliche you want to use, because their front court is so dominant and their offense getting out in transition, the way they organize in the half court as well has been so impressive that it really was just the 3-point shooting. And you always say that you want to be a team that gets hot at the right time. 3 of the last 4 games, double-digit made threes by the Gators. So if they can keep that up, they absolutely have a really, really good chance. Again, this episode is sponsored by Comfort Temp and Heating. You're the #1 local HVAC company. They got to get out to JC's house. Professional and experienced technicians keep you informed throughout the entire project. Hey, my dad went through the same thing, man. He right before that whole winter storm came in about a month ago, his furnace went out, and they bought like 4 space heaters and have been trying to stay warm, and they thought they were through it, and then they see the weather this week and they're like, man, what are we doing here? This is just not Florida weather. So I see you're in the sweatshirt here, man. That's brutal for Florida.
It's not so bad. I mean, I can crank up the nat gas thing out there in the fireplace, and we're all good. But speaking of getting hot, I mean, 7th straight win for Florida, road record, road winning streak to 6, 16-2 Grams since mid-December, 16-2, unbeaten in the month of February. We're almost through the month of February. We're up 2 games easily in the loss column over Arkansas, Tennessee, and Alabama with 4 games left. They're going to win the regular season. They're going to be the top seed in the tournament. That means they probably don't play until, I guess that's Friday, or I guess it's Friday night. So they'll have plenty of rest.
Yeah, Friday night.
Yeah. And when Condon, I've been overly critical about Alex Condon and his offensive production, but here he is just quietly getting 24 points the other day. And at Mississippi in a very sleepy environment. It's easy to show up at places like this when the place has got no energy in there and then just have to create your own and just blow out the team that slept in their own bed the night before. And it's easy to fall asleep in those environments, and Florida just didn't do that. They went ahead and scored 94 points. So these are the tests that I look at when I watch them go through the grind of the season, go through the grind of the conference schedule, traveling, in the SEC, and then coming out and just sending the crowd home at halftime. That's, to me, the kind of team that UConn was when they won it all, the Villanova was when they won it all, that a lot of these teams that win these tournaments at the end of the year, they are battle tested, because not only are they battle tested with tough games, but they're battle tested with tough environments, meaning playing in a game where there's absolutely no energy and being self-motivated and self-driven to just bury somebody and get the heck out of town. I think it's very impressive. And I got to tell you, man, if this team has got Elite Eight written all over it, who knows from there? Because the tournament, as you know, Graham, the field is going to be as good this year with top seeds as I think we've seen. And last year we saw 4 number ones playing in the Final Four. It's not going to surprise me if we see that or something close to that in this year's tournament. It's just overwhelmingly dominant at the top, in my opinion. We're not going to have a Cinderella, I think.
Yeah, I saw some of those bracket projections that came out there, and in one bracket, you had Michigan as a number 1 seed. You had Houston as a number 2 seed, a Houston team that took Florida to the wire last year, looked like they were going to win. And then in that bracket, Florida was the number 3 seed. I mean, whoever comes out of the Midwest or the South region with the amount of number 1 and number 2 seeds that are in there is going to be a deserved team to win the national championship. I have a hard time, like you said, seeing a team that's going to be able to go on a Cinderella run with just the amount of dominance that is at the top. And I agree with you about the AP poll. I mean, I look at some of those teams that are in there ahead of Florida, Nebraska. They're having a great season. Don't get me wrong. They won 20 straight games, but they're not beating Florida in 40 minutes. Purdue as well. People always love to
They do.
put Purdue at the top, and I get the respect for Matt Painter, but watch that team. I mean, they're not a top 10 team in college basketball right now. They could be when they get into the tournament, but they're not a team that I would take to beat Florida right now. And Kansas as well. I do want to get your take on Kansas just with the whole Darian Peterson situation. How can you trust them that they're playing 2 games in 3 nights in the first and the second round of the tournament, and then you're Darian Peterson and he's like, "Oh, I'll give you 18 good minutes tonight." I mean, how are you going to take that over a team that has gone, like you said, 16-2 in their last 2.5 months, is clicking at the right time, shows up on the road, the defending national champions. I mean, for them to be a spot ahead of Florida in the AP poll last week, and I don't think that's going to be the case when the new AP poll comes out here this afternoon. But how could anyone take them? My only thought could be maybe there's some voters who just have some. They're probably not watching every single game, which understandable, but maybe they have some reservation about putting in a team with 6 losses ahead of a team that has just 2 or 3 losses. But Kansas has 5 losses now, 6, I believe. So I expect Florida to be ahead of some of these teams. And you go on the road in this league, I don't care who you're playing. I don't care if you're playing South Carolina or Mississippi State. You go on the road in this league and you win by double digits. That is extremely impressive in my mind. And we sometimes take it for granted because Florida's done it just so often now.
Without a doubt. And a lot of times, I'm telling you, it's just tough to travel. And then when there's no juice in the building, to get out there and just bury somebody, they just play basketball. They're just out there having a good time. They seem to really enjoy each other. And the coach, Todd Golden, has got so much momentum behind him right now. And people around the country have noticed. I mean, Vegas loves this team. The point spreads are huge. They're still covering. People are just in love with this team. People typically in Las Vegas don't like laying big spreads, and yet there's Florida laying 13 and easily walking through it. I think that the teams that when I watch basketball, the teams that I think would be difficult for Florida in this are teams with big front courts, obviously, but good guard play. So obviously, I think Arizona is one. I think Duke is one. I think UConn, when they get their act together, can be a very dangerous type of team. Houston is going to be very athletic, but Florida matches up with these guys. And so it's going to be tremendous to see who's going to get seeded and where they're going to be. I can't see Florida, if they go through the SEC and then they win the SEC tournament. Let's just assume this is going to happen as a hypothetical. And you're telling me 9 or 10 teams out of the SEC are going to get the NCAA. How do you put them any lower than a 2 seed? How do you not put them as a 1 seed? How do you say, well, okay, Duke ran through the ACC, but what is the ACC? What is the Big 12? So the Big 12 to me is a little bit, now Texas Tech losing their best player, that's a team that's going to drop down, I think, because how can you replace somebody like that? So I think if you win the SEC and you're telling me that 9 or 10 teams are going to get in the tournament, how can you not be a 2 or a 1? So I think Florida's heading that direction. If that happens, that means good seeding. That means very friendly geography, hopefully, and that also means teams that they'll be able to quite easily handle. So,
yeah, all going to be about matchups there when they get in the NCAA tournament.
Yeah.
QC Kinetics for long-lasting relief, no surgery, drugs, or downtime. Schedule your free consultation at QC Kinetics. Now, JC, I don't know how much of a baseball guy are you, man? Are you someone you love it? Okay. For some people, I understand. They're waiting for SEC, especially. What did you think of this past 6 games for this team?
Well, I got to be honest. The only game I really paid attention to was the first Kennesaw State game. Florida bombed them, I think, won by 6. The thing with me is that when baseball gets started in February, and I'm so deep into basketball, it's the same thing with basketball when it gets started in November and December, and I'm so deep into football, my attention span is limited to what I'm really looking at. Because what am I going to get out of the first 6 or 7 games with the Florida baseball team right now? Not a whole lot. Because when they get to the SEC and they start playing teams that are their own size, let's just put it that way, and they're picked to be 6th or 7th in the league of 16 teams, that's okay. But Florida's standard is to win it all, right? Not just the SEC, but to win the whole shooting match, to get to Omaha. Those are the kinds of things that we will be able to talk a little bit more in depth with and have a little bit better perspective when we get into March and April and we start playing the Texas A&Ms and the Arkansas and the Auburns and the Tennessees and teams like that, the Kentuckys. Then I'll be able to say, okay, well, this is going to be a real run. Because let's remember, when basketball started, they lost to Missouri, I think, in the first SEC game on the road. And you were thinking, okay, maybe this is a Sweet 16, maybe it's not. But as things progressed, as they grew into the team, as each player got better and the team chemistry started to mold, you saw a much different aspect. Missouri is not beating Florida tomorrow. And so I think that as the season goes, it's going to be a lot easier for me to give you a little bit better perspective, I think, on baseball. But I would expect, Graham, knowing Kevin O'Sullivan, knowing his track record, knowing where he's taken this team, knowing that they've won it twice, knowing that they've gone multiple times, I would be shocked to expect anything less. There have been down years, sure. Last year was one I consider a down year. But there have been years where they have come out of nowhere and the pitching has just exploded out of the gate and they've shut people down. To me, to win the College World Series, for Florida to be what Florida always has been, it starts on the pitching mound. And that is where the Gators have to excel, both on the depth side and with the starting rotation side. If that happens, they'll be on their way to the Super Regional. Simple.
Yeah, I think it's the Liam Peterson that they got Friday night.
Yeah.
Throughout SEC play. I mean, 12 strikeouts across 91 pitches, allowed just one hit, throwing a no-hitter through 4 innings. If they get that guy every single Friday in SEC play,
right,
they're going to be really, really tough to beat. And I, didn't have his best outing, obviously, against UAB, but still one of the top pitchers in college baseball. And then, teams have to face on Saturday Aiden King, who has just been fantastic going back to last season, his last 6 starts. He has just been excellent for Florida. And then I like the addition of Cooper Walls there as the Sunday guy. We'll see how, if they don't try some other options during the season, but he's looked really good on both Sundays. I'm with you, though, that it is sometimes hard for me to follow college baseball early on. Obviously, I'm looking forward to this upcoming weekend. Florida goes down to Miami, which is always such a great rivalry series. Those two teams hate each other. Have you ever talked to Jeff Cardozo?
Oh, yeah.
He hates Miami.
No.
And you can kind of hear it a little bit on the broadcast for him. And so that one gets me going for sure early on in the non-conference. But otherwise, it is hard to take anything from these games and be like, okay, this is going to carry. But I will say the one thing that has impressed me so far that I think is really promising is just how this team is hitting right now. We'd heard that in the offseason during fall ball, going to Tom Slater, with Chuck Girolamo going to Tennessee, that Florida would maybe be taking a little bit of a different approach at the plate. For so long, it was kind of like home run or bust for this team, and now they're kind of more willing and eager to hit line drives, bunt a little bit more, try and steal at a high rate. They've looked really, really good at the plate these first 6 games here. So if that is what carries, and I think that was one of the biggest criticisms of this team last year, is that they weren't hitting well against even, these non-conference teams. So outside of the results themselves, if they get the plate vision that they have right now, I think they're going to have a really, really good chance of making a regional and hopefully hosting a regional back here in Gainesville. You got such a beautiful ballpark that you'd like to see it packed during, May and June.
You must host a regional if you're going to have a successful season, if you look back. But yes, hitting will absolutely take pressure off pitching. And you're right. If they score an average of 8 to 12 runs, on average, they're going to win a lot of games. Graham, before you let me roll, and I know you're going to get with Nick and talk more about this, but I have to mention what happened over the weekend. I have to mention it wasn't a miracle on ice because these are all paid professionals. But what the U.S. did, being outshot 2-1 on tilted ice against the sore losing Canadians, which is exactly what they are, and winning the gold medal to join their sisters, the women's team who won the gold medal against the same country, is just one of the best parts of the last month for me. And I know we have a lot of viewers that watch hockey. I know it for a fact, from Fort Lauderdale to Tampa and all parts in between and above us. Hockey is a big deal now. We're going to see the State of the Union tomorrow night in Washington, D.C., and the hockey teams are going to be in attendance. They're going to be invited. They're going to be there with their gold medals. And Connor Hellebuck, who is the goalie of the Winnipeg Jets, which is the capital of Manitoba, Canada. He's an American born and raised in Michigan, and he was a cement wall. They had open shots. That little wimp, Nathan McKinnon, that sore loser from Colorado Avalanche, the Canadian, who says, we're a better team, we're a better team, we're a better team. Well, you had an open door, bro, and you didn't walk through it, so you choked. And by the way, you lost. And on top of that, when you guys got lucky and won the Four Nations, did you hear the United States team whining about who was the better team or what this or what that? You guys are losers. You lost. And Canada gets silver and a stuffed animal. And John Cooper, the coach of the Canadians, who coaches Tampa Bay, I'm not happy with him either. Belly aching about the overtime rules, because if they had scored, you wouldn't have heard one word about the overtime rules. Well, we shouldn't have won because the overtime rules were sorry, and they were not emblematic of the way hockey's supposed to be played in overtime, because that's not how we do it in the NHL playoffs, but that's how we do it in the Olympics. But we still won, so I guess it's okay. But because he lost, it's a problem. The Americans won. Jack Hughes had all his teeth knocked out, put them back in his mouth, and won. Connor Hellebuck was unbelievable as a Canadian was a goalie on a Canadian team. He's an American who won the gold medal. This was a great moment. It's what we needed, because right now the United States and Canada are duking it out in other matters. But the reality is, when you get on the ice, that's their national game. That's where this sport was invented, and we smoked them and took the gold medal. And that's how it works in hockey, brother. Nobody's going to make excuses except the Canadians, and they can make them for as long as they want. But they got 4 years to sit on that silver medal. So we'll see you in France, Canada. And by the way, they're still not going to win a Stanley Cup in Canada. It's going to stay in the United States like it always does, and most likely will be in the hockey capital of the world, which is the state of Florida. That's my hockey rant for everybody this morning. I know that's not a big deal for you, Graham, but the reality is that we are gold medal winners, and we're going to celebrate that shit tomorrow night in Washington, D.C., baby. That's what.
Man, I can't believe I made you wait to give that. You've been working on that one.
No, I just came out naturally, but I just love the whining, the Nate McKinnons of the world and the John Coopers. They just a bunch of belly achers, and that's what losers do. So we're not going to worry about those guys. We're going to be excited for the guys who won in the red, white, and blue, and tomorrow night they're going to be celebrated as well they should. So I had to get that out.
Yeah, I mean, I was tuned in yesterday. It was electric there.
Oh.
I think I've gone on record and said I'm not a huge Winter Olympics guy, but hockey just is a different, breed for me. I can't watch. I just don't understand it. I got nothing against it.
You got to go.
But I don't know what I'm looking for in figure skating and stuff. Hockey gets me revved up.
You got to go in person and watch it in person.
I have had a couple experiences. I went to a couple Lightning games, and we always sat like in the rafters.
And
so thank you, because people always told me, oh, it's like watching on TV. You can see all the action. And I'll be honest, and this may sound soft, but I got a little dizzy when a couple times I went and I sat that high up. A couple years ago, I went to a Florida Panthers game with a couple friends who were down there, and we sat third row.
There you go,
like right on the ice. And man, I was enamored. I was like, this is the way to watch the game. I can't watch it on TV anymore after having that experience. And maybe this sounds, bougie or whatever it is that, the kids want to call it. But like, I was like, if I'm going to a game, I'm paying for an expensive ticket and I'm sitting right there on the ice. There's no one out there who watches hockey from the third or the fifth row and doesn't come away being like, man, this is freaking awesome. That's the way to do it. I got to get back out there. It's been too long. I went to those games as a kid when they had in Tampa, Le Cavalier and Martin St. Louis, and those teams. I grew up on those teams, man. But I haven't been back to a Lightning game in I think 15, 20 years now. It was electric there, and there's something about the little bit of the national pride where, and I'm not trying to get on a political high horse, but sports, I always say, is a unifying thing for people, regardless of where they come from, how they identify, their political divisions, it seems now is the way to call it. but everyone can rally around in this country, around the United States, playing hockey on the international level, especially against Canada, who just in general, even before all the whining, has this high and mighty mentality, like this is our sport. You know, how do you think you can step on the ice with us and play with us? And for a long time, that was the case for the United States. But hockey in the US for the last 20 years has been massive. These development leagues used to not get 50,000 people. Now they're getting consistently 250,000 people. It's going to keep rising, and it was awesome to see yesterday.
It's taken over Hillsborough County in many ways, as this has in North Dallas, and of course in South Florida and Fort Lauderdale area with those two Stanley Cups. It does breed excitement and more participation. And yes, I understand that most Canadian players are on these teams that win Stanley Cups, but they're playing in America. So don't misunderstand when I say that Canada hasn't won a Stanley Cup. It's just the teams in Canada have not won Stanley Cup since the 80s. And many of the players are Canadian. And I love the Canadian players. I love them. I think they're fantastic. But the reality is that I love the American players a little bit more. And I think the reality, too, is that in hockey, the one thing you never do is make an excuse. When you lose, you take the L. And Canada forgot about that because it's their sport, or it's their this, or it's their that. It's not. It's everybody's sport. It's everybody's this, and it's everybody's that. And when we get to the playoffs, the Stanley Cup playoffs, if you have a chance to go watch a Tampa or Miami game, Graham, the energy levels, the excitement, that alone, whether you understand what's going on in the ice or not, the physicality of it all is going to be something that you gravitate toward, that you're going to enjoy watching. It's so much different than probably most of the things. We love football, right? We love the physicality. We love the energy. We love the excitement before the game. We love the tailgating. We love the team running out. We love the Gator going like this, as the Gators come out. It works that way in hockey as well before these playoff games, and you'll see intensity that matches what you saw at the Olympics, that matches what you saw at the Four Nations. But remember, when we lost in the Four Nations game, we didn't start making excuses about it. We took the L. Canada has to remember that. And Canada needs to remember that they have the silver medal for 4 years. And it's going to take 4 years before they have another shot at it. So take that, smoke it.
Yeah, tough year for Canada, I'll be honest. Women's hockey, obviously, then Edmonton Oilers losing, and the Toronto Blue Jays losing as well. Tough year for them. I kind of feel for them in a sense, but they're going to have to wait a little bit longer. They'll get other chances here. But JC, what you looking forward to this weekend before I get you out of here?
Yeah, well, we've got the Florida Swing coming now in golf. And by the way, here on PodUp, third time since the season started, we have picked the winner. I took Jake Bridgman to win the Genesis. He won the Genesis by a stroke. I mean, I don't know what to tell you. Rory came in second. QB had him. So we're going to be watching golf come to Palm Beach. After that, it goes to Bay Hill. After that, it goes to TPC. Of course, I'm going to keep my eyes on the Gator baseball team, but basketball is my center focus. This game with Texas coming up, I think, is a huge game. Texas is better when they're playing at home, but they're not a team that should really match up well with Florida. I think Florida runs them out of the building. At least I think that's what's going to happen, because why wouldn't it? So that's what I'm going to keep my eye on. And, as we get into warmer weather, I think in the latter part of the week, it's back to the golf course, brother.
Let's go. Let's do it. I'm going to be playing in a golf tournament this weekend, finally on Friday.
Yeah.
First time I played golf in 6 months. So
Yeah.
I'm going to go warm up on Wednesday. Hopefully I still have my swing, man. But
hit
hopefully
irons.
you can get out there soon.
Hit irons, Graham. Make sure you warm up with irons. Don't just.
That's always the move.
Hit your irons. Start with a 9-iron, work your way down to the 4 or the 5, and then hit your driver last on the driving range, and you'll do just fine. I think you'll have a great time. And everybody enjoy themselves this week. It's going to be a little chilly early. It's going to warm up in the latter part. And don't forget, tomorrow at 8:30, I'll be back with Win with JC as we do our picks for basketball tomorrow night and Wednesday. So excited about that. Graham, thank you for having me, brother. It was great seeing you as always. And, enjoy your week, bro.
You too, my guy. Always a pleasure. Thank you for joining me here on PodUp with Matthews in the morning, brought to you by Quality Plumbing. Residential and commercial plumbing services and emergency repair since 1984. Our name says it all. Appreciate JC joining us here. We're going to go ahead and take this break. When we come back, We'll have Nick Marcinko here to talk a little bit more baseball, some basketball. I don't know if he's going to be as big of a hockey guy as JC was here, but hopefully he brings the passion just like JC did. We'll be back after this break.
Our premium sponsors are Atlantic Roofing, Campus USA Credit Union, International Diamond Center, J.F. Hayden's Craft Liqueurs, Los Linderos Tequila, Meldon Law, Titan MRI and Imaging, Castaway Sauce, UF Health Orthopedics. Gridiron sponsors are Baker Sports, Comfort Temp, Florida Cracker Oyster, Electronics World, Gallo Car Wash, Miapa Latin Cafe, Peachland Dental, Quality Plumbing, Ruse Ogre State Farm, Silverback Concrete, 84 Lumber, Big Mills Cheesesteaks, Celebrate Primary Care, Gator Bait Media, Florida Cracker Kitchen, Gator Dominoes, Ironwood Golf Course, McDonald's of Gainesville, Tropical Smoothie Cafe, UF Bookstores, Advocare, MG&A Wealth. Remember to like, follow, and subscribe so you don't miss an episode. And to advertise, call my man Freddie, 352-284-3733.
Coach, you know what always impressed me, how you beat Florida State to win the 1996 National Championship.
And I was really impressed with your 06, 08, and 09 Gator teams.
And the way you coached Danny to the Heisman Trophy.
A lot like what you did with Tim Tebow.
You know, you won more SEC championships than you lost home games at the Swamp.
And you had plenty of super games in front of our Gator Nation.
Yeah, there really is something special about the Swamp.
I guess that's why we say about the Swamp, only the Gators get out alive.
To the Swamp and the Gators, with the best beverage served at Spurrier's Gridiron Grill, 100% agave Los Linderos Tequila, aged in bourbon barrels for a smoother taste.
I think you mean Head Beer Coach 1966 lager, a crisp, light, bodied lager for easy drinking.
Nope. Los Linderos Tequila, smooth enough to drink neat and bold enough to elevate a cocktail.
1966 lager, enjoyed on game days in the fall or whenever you need a winning cold brew.
Los Linderos Tequila.
1966 lager.
Los Linderos.
1966 lager.
Y'all stop bickering.
Okay, you're both wrong anyway. The best thing Spurrier's Gridiron Grill offers are Jerry's famous chocolate chip cookies.
What's up, everyone? I'm Mike Pouncey, and this is my twin brother Marquise Pouncey, and this is Life After Football. Let's go. We are the owners of Tropical Distillery, and JF Hayden's is our liqueur brand. We have 5 different flavors: a mango, a lychee, an espresso, citrus, and key lime pie. We pride ourselves on not only being a Florida-made brand, but also a cocktail solution. With that being said, cheers and go Gators.
Hi there, this is Coach Steve Spurrier, and I want to let you know that by popular demand, Spurrier's Gridiron Grill's delicious brunch is now served in a premium buffet. You have spoken, we have listened, and we're now serving Gainesville's only elevated buffet, complete with an omelet station, ginger sage chicken sausage, shredded short rib, plus you can enjoy bottomless mimosas and Bloody Marys. So join us every Saturday and Sunday from 11 to 3 for the best brunch in town.
All right. How are we doing today, this morning? Welcome back to PodUp with Matthews in the Morning. Presented by Comfort 10 and Meldon Law. We're going to have Nick Marcinko to join us and continue talking all things Florida baseball. We got some questions that have been coming in here on Facebook Live, brought to you by Meldon Law, the only official injury and accident law firm of the Gators. Did you see Kent State take 2 out of 3 against Florida this weekend? I did. You know, that Tennessee program against Tennessee this weekend. Yeah, that Tennessee program, I know that it's always a dominant team out there, you know, with Vitello leaving for the MLB, which I think is going to be fascinating to see here. And with Chuck Girolamo, you know, joining his buddy up there, you know, I know Florida fans are probably a little bit invested in rooting against them a little bit more here. And I just certainly think that you look around the state of the SEC, it's going to be an absolute just dogfight here when we get into March and into April here, certainly. And we talked a little bit about this in the first half, and we're going to talk a little bit more baseball here pretty soon. But just the way that Florida played to start the season, again, the first game wasn't, didn't go the way that they wanted. That UAB team has certainly looked improved compared to they were a year ago when they went 500. I think they went 29-30 last year, and certainly were able to get some runs up against this Florida team that was still, finding their groove. And you didn't have a great outing from Liam Peterson, but ever since then, Florida has been so hot at the plate that if they keep that up, and we're going to talk about this a little bit here, but on Sunday, I thought it was really promising getting the innings from Jackson Barbery, in relief. I mean, a guy who has battled through injury is certainly a promising option out of the bullpen for them. And then Cooper Walls, pitched 3 shutout innings here. Florida almost, they almost blew it there down the stretch. And, I had some guys who were texting me from the press box who were like, man, we may have to write 2 stories. Sometimes you never know if you're talking about Florida blowing a lead here or ended up pulling out and getting the sweep. And fortunately for the Gators, they ended up doing just that. But we're going to bring on the guy who has been out there at Conjure Family Ballpark, has been doing a great job covering Florida for several years now over at Gator Country. He's out there at basketball every single game. He's going to be out there at spring camp as well. Big baseball guy as well. Nick Marcinko of Gator Country. Nick, how are you doing today, my guy?
Yeah, good, Graham. Thanks for having me on.
Nick, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. You got me?
Hey, may I be having some technical difficulties with Nick? We're going to get him here in a second. Again, this episode is sponsored by Comfort Temp Heating and Air, your #1 local HVAC company. Professional experienced technicians keep you informed throughout the entire project. Visit us at comforttemp.com. Comfort Temp Heating and Air. Comfort is our business. Peace of mind is our promise. Nick maybe dealing with a little bit of this cold that is going on here in Gainesville. He's in a sweatshirt right now. So, I feel like kind of the odd man out here, sitting just here in a polo and trying to, brave the cold a little bit here. So, maybe my air is working a little bit better than these guys', but it is cold in Gainesville right now. If you've been out there at the Diamond, around Gainesville, you've been feeling it. I did want to mention, I saw this massive line before the baseball game yesterday. Over 1,000 people lined up before the game to, obviously to get into the arena, but to get those Jack Caglione bobbleheads that up there. It was a little bit sad to me. Nick posted this on Twitter as soon as it happened, but people selling them $100. That was a little bit sad to me here. I hope it, that's not how it should be. You show up to the game, you have a chance to collect something. You should keep it here, man. So I was a little bit disheartened by that. Maybe they should have done a little bit more than 1,000. I think we've got Nick back here. Let's see if we got him in here. Nick, how are you doing today?
Good. Thanks for having me on, Graham.
Hey, man, absolutely. You look a little bit cold. You're rocking a sweatshirt this morning. Is your air
I'm a
down
little
like
chilly.
JC's?
It's cold in my apartment. It is. Turn the AC off, so it's a little chilly.
Oh, man. Oh, man. Well, I'm sure you were feeling the wind blowing in yesterday out at Conjure Family Ballpark. We're going to talk some baseball here this morning with you, but let's just start with your overall thoughts on Florida getting the sweep this weekend against a Kennesaw State team that looked matched from the jump. Florida ruled them on Saturday. Fantastic. We'll start there. What'd you think of Liam Peterson's bounce back performance Friday on the mound for the Gators?
Yeah, I thought he was really effective, and he took the mound, and you could tell pretty much, his first at bat was a little worrisome. He went down 3-0 in the count, and you could kind of feel in the ballpark everyone was like, "Oh, here we go again." But he bounced right back, and then ended up striking out 12 over 5 1/3. Looked really, really good. And I think all weekend, Florida just played really good baseball, and it's difficult to string together really really good baseball for 3 straight days. It's hard to sweep in college baseball. Not many teams can do it. Anytime you get a sweep, you take it. It doesn't really matter who the opponent is. And the people I talked to in the industry before Florida played Kennesaw State all had great things to say about Kennesaw State. So I think, and like I said, anytime you sweep, it's a great thing. But look, they played really, really good baseball for 3 straight days. I think yesterday was a little bit kind of unique in the fact that it was 25-mile-per-hour winds, pretty consistent throughout the game. And if you've ever played baseball, that's difficult. And because it affects pitching, the outfield. I mean, Kennesaw State was struggling with fly balls. The pitchers, both pitching staffs were struggling to throw strikes, but I thought they swung the bats really well all weekend. Liam Peterson was fantastic on Friday. Yeah, it was just a really good sweep for Florida baseball.
Yeah, I want to talk about Florida's approach at the plate. I had some people text me, and this is such a minor gripe when you get a sweep. They were saying it doesn't seem we're hitting nearly as many home runs this season. From what I've heard, that is by design of Florida's approach at the plate. They're looking to get more line drives and just get balls into the infield and outfield, and they're going to bunt a little bit more and attempt to be really strategic with stealing. What have you heard about just how Florida's approach at the plate maybe is a little bit different with Tom Slater here in Gainesville and Chuck Girolamo up there in Vol Nation?
Yeah, so I think like for years the success in the SEC has been power pitching, power hitting. But I think what Kevin O'Sullivan and Tom Slater have tried to establish, in the offseason is how can we find ways to score runs without using the long ball? Because you never know when you're playing baseball whether the wind might be blowing 20 mile per hour back at your face. If you get to the College World Series, you're playing at Charles Schwab Field, really long field, lots of wind factors there as well. You need to find ways to score runs, without using the home run. And what Florida has done so well this year is they've came up with clutch situational hitting. They're putting balls in play with runners on third, less than 2 outs, a lot of sac flies. They had 2 sac flies last night. And I think their approach also changed in who they added, right? So you look at a guy like Kyle Jones, who hit 478 this weekend. I think he's just under 500 on the year as well. He's just your prototypical leadoff guy, right? A lot of line drives. I think he has 7 doubles on the season, if I'm not mistaken. I believe he leads the NCAA in doubles. He's getting on base for Florida. So yeah, I think their approach at the plate has changed, but also their personnel in terms of who they've added has also made a difference as well.
Electronics World, integration and design specialist for smart home automation and entertainment, affordable local installation, service, and support, electronicsworld.net. Before we talk a little spring camp, I got to get one more take from you on baseball. Jackson Barbary was fantastic yesterday in that relief spot for Florida, and along with Cooper Walls. How critical were those performances yesterday in helping Florida secure the sweep? And what did you think of Jackson's outing here? He got a lot of praise from his teammates after the game. Just how big were those performances in your mind?
Yeah, Jackson's been great. He this offseason really took a jump. We were talking to him yesterday. He put on, I think he said 15 pounds in the offseason, and he kind of filled into his already long frame. And he, his velo's up 4 to 5 ticks. He's sitting 98 miles per hour, 99. He hit triple digits in the preseason, and it's all strikes. And I think that was an issue for him last year as well. He, he's always had great stuff, but he just couldn't really find the zone. And this year he's taken them out with confidence, and he's throwing a lot of strikes. He was huge in Florida's win last night. There was that 5th inning where Florida just really couldn't get out of the inning, and he came in and picked up a strikeout and ended up going 2 1/3 scoreless. Just absolutely massive. And he was sick too all week. Was running 101 fever, I think coach said, for like 3 days. And Sunday was like the first day he felt good enough to even pitch. And and he went out there and gave Florida 2 1/3 really really big innings in that game to help secure the sweep. So he's been phenomenal, and he's an arm. Look, Florida's bullpen, in much like the offense as well, but they're kind of going through trial and error right now. They've got two relievers, kind of dealing with some injury that's kind of held them out or limited them at the start of the season. So they're just trying to establish their pitching roles right now. And I think Barberry is a guy that you could see Florida get really comfortable with at the back end of a game, potentially serving, kind of in that like multi-inning closer role. But yeah, he's been phenomenal and is certainly going to be a huge piece to the team this year.
Yeah, I thought that was big for him. Obviously, 101 fever, man. Not very fun whatsoever. I can relate to him in one aspect where I think gained 15 pounds in the offseason, so I can relate to him there certainly. UF Health Orthopedics and Sports Medicine. Injuries occur whenever and however, and it's never convenient for sprains, strains, and minor fractures. UF Health Ortho Care makes it convenient for you. 7 days a week, including evenings. Walk-ins are welcome. We've got a couple questions here on YouTube Live. Facebook Live is presented by Meldon Law, the only official injury and accident law firm partner of the Florida Gators. Nick, we're so focused on baseball and basketball, but spring camp is right around the corner here in Gainesville. It opens on March. New head John Summerall. Want to know, Graham, with our wide receiver room, will Justin Williams and Davian Gross receive playing determined? Obviously, those guys being early enrollees have some spring, but you look at that Florida wide receiver room, just absolutely loaded. You return Dallas Wilson, Vernell Brown III, you bring in Eric Singleton, you bring in Bailey Stockton, you add Micah Mays from Wake Forest, and you got TJ back from last year's team as well. It's going to be tough for these freshmen to carve out playing time, but those two guys right there, of the freshman additions, and I don't leave out Marquez Daniel, but those two guys right there, you look at their high school film, Justin Williams playing right here in our backyard in Gainesville, and then Davian just, I always pump the brakes a little bit when someone gets compared to Percy Harvin, but we've heard that time and time again about Dave. What do you think are the chances of, and freshmen have played from the jump in Gainesville for multiple years here. Obviously, I just mentioned Dallas and Vernell, but what do you think from looking at Florida's wide receiver room? Are the chances that either some minutes here this season and are able to establish themselves in the depth chart?
Yeah, I think Davian Gross is, he's a fantastic football player. I remember watching his tape for the first time and thinking, okay, this has got like a Eugene Wilson type feel to it in terms of, okay, he may leave camp as, a contributor early on. He moves really well with the ball in his hands. He knows how to get open, and he's an incredible athlete. And that was certainly a huge addition for Florida. And so, yeah, it's all going to be settled on the field. And I think the one thing, that this staff has really tried to, kind of hone in on is that, hey, it's an open competition everywhere. There are no, starters right now, or there's no roles. And look, we're 2 camps away from even Florida, hitting the field for the first time. So I think a lot can change. But I look at a guy like Davian Gross, and I'm saying, okay, he can play early on and kind of be in that first rotation. But then you look at Dallas Wilson, Eric Singleton, Vernell Brown, and to me, those are kind of your guys, 2 returners, 1 veteran that the staff is very comfortable with, and obviously a lot of talent there as well. But then in that second tier, you bring in Micah Mays, you have Davian Gross. I think those are weapons that Florida can certainly utilize early on.
Yeah, well, car wash locally owned by UF alum and the only car wash that provides NIL opportunities to Gators athletes, with location on Northwest 13th Street and Southwest Wilson Road, coming soon to Jonesville and North Main Street in Gainesville. A little bit early to look at depth charts, obviously, because like you said, 2 camps change here in the near future and in the next 6 months here. But I think if there's one aspect that fans and media obviously are hoping for, is that spring camp is just a little bit more open this year. Has happened with new coaches that come in, they want to appeal to fans. They showcase their program, show different, get some impact. But for the last couple of years, coaches have, and I'm not saying this as an excuse because there's some validity to this. They've kept everything really behind closed doors because of the spring transfer portal window, where they didn't want to showcase, hey, look how good so and so is. Look at this guy. He, maybe he's the fourth, fifth guy on the depth chart for us, but we think he's really, really good. And the next thing you know, spring camp ends and the portal opens, and during spring camp, there's probably all this tampering going on behind scenes with agents and coaches reaching out to guys. And the next thing you know, the guy that everyone saw at spring camp being a standout is hitting portal because he's getting double money elsewhere. That's not really as much of an issue. Coaches joke that the portal is always open in a sense. There's always an avenue to try and add a player or the other, but there's no spring transfer portal window here. I just hope, and I want to get your take on this, that I don't know if we'll see a fan day return because, go back to the Dan Mullen years, which coincidentally, I got to mention this before I get your take on this. Dan Mullen is going to be back in Gainesville tonight as the winner of the first year Coach of the Year award. Obviously, a long tenured head coach, but first year at ULV was pretty successful for Dalen, so he's going to be out there at Spurrier's tonight with Shane Matthews and Kirby Smart and Mario Cristobal and Steve Spurrier. So it's going to be an interesting return to Gainesville for Dan Mullen. But Dan Mullen had fans out there. He had practices fully open. I don't know. We never saw that under Billy Napier. I don't know if we're going to get it under John Summerall, but I'm just hopeful that with no spring transfer portal window, we get a little bit more that we can see in spring camp and tell people how this team is looking. Do you agree with me there?
No, I 100%. And not to say like there's no excuse anymore, but like you said, there is no spring, portal window. So, that's not something they can say as a reason to why they're not, having practices. And just on what Summerall is saying, and look, he's doing such a good job of trying to just encapsulate the fan base, right? He's showing up to every single event. So obviously I'm hoping, for not only the media, but for the fans as well, that they can maybe get out to a practice or two in the spring and just kind of see where the team's at. And I guess I'm hopeful that we'll get that opportunity to watch the team.
Yeah, John Summerall has certainly been out there. He's been at basketball games, sitting courtside. He was at tennis. So if you didn't see that photo, everyone at the tennis match the other day, and he had baseball on his phone that he was streaming, or basketball on his phone that he was streaming. He's out of baseball. He went to the softball games. I mean, the guy has been everywhere. It's still getting settled in Gainesville, so he's got plenty of time to go out there and watch it. But clearly, is involved in Florida right now. So this is certainly a situation where you have a coach that is eager to put himself out there, and hope it means putting his football program out there. Nick, we appreciate you joining us here on this episode of PodUp with Matthews in the Morning. Let everyone know out there how they can follow you, or they can read your content, and what you got coming up this week here, my man.
Yeah, man, you guys can follow my content at gatorcountry.com and on X/Twitter at Marcinko_Nick. Yeah, man, just this week got 2 home games against FIU, and then the baseball team goes on the road to Miami, which is my favorite series of the year. So that's going to be exciting. 2 teams that really don't like each other.
Yeah, I was saying earlier that Jeff Cardozo is a noted Miami hater here, and you can hear it on the broadcast. And looking forward to seeing that series this weekend. It's going to be an exciting one. Hopefully the pitching shows up, and obviously Florida looks to stay hot at the plate against really their first true test of the season, facing that Miami team. But again, Nick, want to thank you for joining us on this PodUp in the Morning. Shane will be back tomorrow, as will JC. See Shane every single morning here on PodUp with Matthews in the Morning. He's a busy guy. JC gave him a hard time, said he was out on the golf course. I know he wishes he is. So I wish I was too. I hope that everyone out here enjoyed this episode of PodUp with Matthews in the Morning. Thank you for letting me host. Nick, thank you for joining us. We're thankful for JC for being here as well. We're thankful for all our wonderful sponsors that make this show possible every single morning here. So that's going to do it for this episode of Pod Up with Matthews in the Morning. I appreciate everyone sticking with me as I couldn't figure out my audio early on, but it's been a wonderful time hanging out with you all. The questions here. Again, Shane will be back tomorrow, but that's going to do it for me. I'm going to hop on out of here. Y'all take care. Go enjoy your beautiful Monday.